Okay, so we're starting Perkei, third Perkei Avos. The first Mishnah is a very fundamental Mishnah, that if a person is going to focus on one Mishnah in Shas, in all of Shas, the person is going to focus on one Mishnah, you have to keep all the Mishnahs. If you're going to give special attention to one, my vote would be this would be the Mishnah of all the Mishnahs in Shas that a person should focus on. Following Mishnah.
Wow.
Yeah, that's pretty heavy, isn't it?
All right.
And it should be
We should repeat
should be
it
a little bit familiar to some of us. We say this Mishnah. Some have a minute to say this at Levi's, at funerals. Akavi ben Mahalal al Oiber. Histako b'shloisha dvarim. One should look at three things. Histako doesn't mean just look. It means one should contemplate. Quite a robust statement. If a person contemplates these three things, he will not come to sin. In other words, every sin that a person commits is a result of not contemplating these three things. If one contemplates these three things, one will be 100% successful Jew, which is our goal in life. Dame ein basa, a person should know where he came from, and where he's going. In front of whom does one have to, eventually one is going to have to give a din v'cheshbon, give an accounting for what he has done. The Mishnah now explains, Ma'ayin bas, so where did I come from? A tifus rucha, a putrid little drop. No reason to be arrogant. We come from very low beginnings. Where are you going? I'm going to a place of dirt, of worms and other creepy crawlies that will be eating my flesh after 120. That's where I'm going. That's where we're all going. We're all every second we're taking one step closer to a makom afarim of the right? So it's probably not so kedai to get involved in this worldly pleasures. In front of whom are you going to have to give a din v'cheshbon in accounting? With name Melech Malchei Amlachim HaKadosh Baruch. In front of the King of Kings, the Kadosh Baruch. So if a person always remembers where he came from, right? It's like his arrogance is a midah, is one of the reasons why a person sins. He's a certain level of arrogance, of independence from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So a person also loses sight of what the point of life is. A person thinks he's going to live forever, so he invests his time in making a lot of money and having fancy cars and fancy houses and fancy jewelry and whatever it is. He doesn't realize that he's going to a makam offering of a seleh. And in front of who we have to give a din v'cheshbon? In front of a Kadosh Baruch. So everything that I do, I have to give an accounting for, right? So if you knew that there was a police car behind you as you drove, he's not going to pull you over. But whenever you go above the speed limit, he'll write it down, and then at the end of the day, you'll get a ticket for all the above the speed limits and all the times the person turned and didn't signal. Right? The cop cars, you see the cop car behind you, he's not doing anything, and you know that at the end of the day, you're going to get a ticket how much you owe for all the infractions. So then a person wouldn't be very careful. Wouldn't go 64? You wouldn't go 63? You wouldn't go 75? So that's the idea. If a person knew in front of whom he's going to give the accounting, if he had that on his mind all the time, so that if HaKadosh Baruch was mamash with him, if we really believe HaKadosh Baruch was everywhere we go, so then it wouldn't be hard. If you saw the police car behind you, it wouldn't be a nisayon to not break the speed limit, right? Would it be difficult? Would it be a challenge?
Well, for the first few times it would be easy, but then after that you'd be like, when you're not getting the nisayon, then you're like, oh, I'm sure it will be okay.
But let's say at the end of every day you got the ticket, meaning that when that feeling happens, so then you got like $169 fine. So then you always have those reminders. So what happens is that I guess you'd forget that the police car is really behind you if you didn't get the tickets every day.
I'm used to it. Exactly.
Right. But if you got the tickets every day, so you would not become used to having to pay $200 a day. That you would not become used to. So I think that's part of it. That if we knew that, if we really believed and we saw and we felt that a Kadosh Baruch Hu was mamash following us wherever we go, and we saw the punishment,
right.
So then, and the reward, doesn't always be negative, and the reward, so then we wouldn't sin. We would never sin. It would be easy, right? So there's like two ways to work on one's Avos. You know, that Bittul Torah, not learning Torah is horrible and it's an Avera or whatever, and not saying Brachos Kavanah is a horrible thing. Or we can try to, work on really seeing in our minds, that HaKadosh Baruch was there, and the punishment if you do an Avera, and the reward if you do a mitzvah. And then Mimela becomes easy. If a person contemplates these three things, he'll never sin. The cop car is always behind him. and he sees the policeman with his ticket and his pen and he's writing it, or the computer that he's typing it on, he sees that. If a person really sees that, then it's easy to keep Torah mitzvahs. It's not hard, it's easy. That's what the Mishnah says.
The Torah is still going to try to, no matter.
But the Mishnah is saying,
I'll find a good lawyer.
Right. The Torah is still going to.
But the Yetzer Hara can't find a way to trip me up if I'm paying a fine every day. Like, in other words, the Yetzer Hara comes and says, you know what, it's more kedai to get to your meeting on time than to make Shiur with Kavan, to mention Kavan. That's the Yetzer Hara says. And therefore, a person thinks, yeah, taka, what's the big deal if I miss it and you go, right? But if I had to pay money every single time, how the Yetzer Hara, the Mishnah is saying, and tabali
Right, that's what I'm saying.
so it's a chashuv yisod, because you're right. Everything else the Yetzer Hara can get. Anything you do, so he'll find a way to get around, right? But if I mamish had to pay money every single time, if I felt the loss, if the policeman would pull you up the end of the day and you punch the guy in the face, every time you broke the speed, you get punched. So you get 4 punches, 3 punches, 10 punches. You wouldn't. It wouldn't be. The Yetzer Hara can't convince you it's worth it to get punched. Maybe once in a while if you're late to an important meeting, you're gonna make a lot of money. So fine, I'll be soivel, but be zayis. You're right. So there could be once in a while, but consistently, I don't think the Yetzer Hara would be able to to do that. Because he always convinces you it's kedai to do an aveira, but in this case, I don't think it's possible.
Rabbi, do the goyim have the same accounting at the end of their?
It's a great question. They have an account. Yeah, I don't see why not. They have an accounting. They have the 7 minutes they have to keep, right? So it's a little bit easier.
Is it the same process? Do they go through the same process as we do?
There is I don't know. I haven't researched that topic extensively, but there is definitely a concept of the tzaddikim umas ha'olam, of the righteous of the nations, and I don't know if they're sitting with us in Gan Eden or they're not. I don't exactly know how it's going to play out, but there's definitely din v'cheshbon. Every time a person, the Gemara in the beginning talks about the guy, and Hashem says you didn't keep your Shem Mitzvah enough, you didn't keep your Noahide laws. There's definitely accounting for them. Every aveira any human being does, there's an accounting. Now, if the guy has no clue at all anything about the Sheva Mitzvahs B'nai, the 7 Noahide laws, then Hashem, it's like a Jew who doesn't know he's Jewish. But a person who knows what he should be doing and is not doing it, everyone's the same.
Right, pay the piper, as they say.
Exactly.
Also, the analogy with the policeman behind you only goes so far, because as long as you don't break the law, you don't speed, you don't make turns without turn signals, that kind of stuff, you're okay with the policeman. But the way it says here, that you come from nothing and you go to nothing, basically, that's what it's saying physically. You come from very little and you go to very little in the end. That also, I think, is trying to impress upon people a sense of humility, being humble with everything, even possessions. In other words, whether you're driving a Rolls Royce or a Toyota, if you don't break the law, the cop won't give you the ticket.
Right.
But you could say, well, but I'll do this in a Rolls Royce. But I think this is also telling you, be humble in that sense. Let's say you have the means to buy a Rolls Royce. Don't buy a Rolls Royce, buy a Mercedes instead, or something a little bit less.
Right.
Don't go all out and do. This is something that a policeman would never catch you for, because you're not doing anything against the law in that sense.
That's a good point. Meaning, the way I'm understanding it until now is that really all we need is the last thing. We don't need, do I have to know where I came from going to? I know whatever I do wrong, I'm gonna have to pay money. I'm gonna get hurt. That's enough. I won't do Avos. Like Daniel's saying, the Mishnah is saying you have to have all 3. If you don't have all 3, then there's no guarantee one's not going to sin. So with the arrogance, even with the knowledge that someone's following me, but with the arrogance, a person might still sin. So you're saying a person has to.
Even buying a Rolls Royce, Mercedes, whatever it is, even an enormous house, you may do it for a mitzvah. You want to have a lot of people over. You may want to use your car to help people to do something.
Right.
You could even that is all relative, because you could do it in a good way, or you could do it just because you want to show off. You have a neighbor who has another car, and because he has the car, I'm going to buy an even better car than he has, just to show off, just to do that to him. Or you could say, I want a really big house because I want to have people over. I want to have Sheva Brachos in my house. I want to have Shiurim. I want to do this. So you even something that could look like arrogance or showing off may not be.
Right. Depends on the intention. That's right. It depends on the person's intention. So that I guess that's the humbleness comes in. The person has to, but it's Ram Chappelle, of all the midas, of all the character traits, so humbleness. That's what he's picking. If a person's humble and he recognizes a din and a dain, I'm going to be held accountable, the person's not going to sin. And what's the second thing, that where he's going to go, where he's going to end up? Is that also to try to imbue in the person humbleness, or is that just like priorities? Like, why would I invest time and money in how I get from point A to point B? Why is a car something that I'm going to, if a person's going to end up in the grave?
Right. So material
You can't take anything with you.
Temporary anyway. So why spend too much on them?
So that helps a person have the right priorities. So there's humbleness, prioritization, and accountability.
I think the humbleness, in a sense, enforces the accountability. Because if you have a big ego, you're like, oh, I'll get out of the accountability. I'll have a, I'll have a good case in Shemaim, whatever it is. Like, but if you're humble, you realize you're subject to the same rules as everybody else. And
it's true. Back to John's point, so we know that in the second base of Mikdash, you bring it out as well. In the second base of Mikdash, the Kohen Gadol died every year. Right? So the question everyone asks is that why would you want to be Kohen Gadol? For the past 15 years, they're all dead. Every single Kohen Gadol, every high priest died, and you're number 16. What kind of Meshugana would go and become Kohen Gadol? The Teretz is an average person would do that because it's a Gavaldic covenant. I'm different. Those guys, he was this Aveira, he had that Aveira, and this guy becomes now number 16. And the 17th comes as, he was also, this guy was no good. So a person, even if you have the clap card behind you, and you've been clapped beforehand, if a person's about Gaiva, this time will be different. I'll work it out with the policeman this time. It won't be so bad. That's what one has to have. Ma'ayin basa. Where did you come from? To have that humbleness, that I'm not so chashuv. But as they get okay, so let's see the Rabbeinu Yonah. So he says like this. When a person looks into where he's coming from, where he came from, the machshav will cause him to be a shval ruach, and he'll be safe from midas hagaiva. It says Avos Hashem kol gvalei, that Hashem despises arrogant people. Right? So therefore it's important to be a humble person.
That's pretty strong words, right?
Yeah.
Despise.
Yes. Te'eva. It's other things also says te'eva. It says all the bad midas, the person who gets angry, not the person who. A murderer is not a te'avas Hashem. It's bad, and you can't do it. It's a big event. It's one of the big three. But gaiva, arrogance, is te'avas Hashem kol gvalei. Yeah, it's pretty big. Where's the person going? To a place of dirt and worms. When a person thinks like this, he's not going to want all the tanugim, all the pleasures of the world. As Rabbi Stetner said in the Nil Sachag, that he said that the point of life isn't to have a conflict. I want to go to the beach on Shabbos, but I have to keep Shabbos because I keep Shabbos. That's what he said. Moshe Feinstein said the Schreck that generation of Yidden who came to America and they were not Machal Shabbos. They lost their jobs every Friday and got a new job on Monday. When they sat down at the Shabbos table, they said, it's a Schwer zu sein Yid. It's hard to be a Jew. Their kids went off the derech. Their kids became Machal Shabbos. How could that be? The Mamash Moise Nefesh for Yiddishkeit, they lost their job every week. They didn't know where the pronounce is going to come from. This the tremendous darga level of Amun and Bitachon. But it was a conflict. So the kids saw, the father said, really, I wish that I was working in the factory on Shabbos so I could have a parnasa. Nebuch, I have to keep the Torah. So the kids said, okay, I'm not going to be a Nebuch. I'm going to work in the factory on Shabbos so I can finance my family. The idea is to synthesize oneself with the Torah. The idea is that I don't want to run after Tanugim El Mazanev. For those Yidden, it wasn't running after Tanugim, it was just having a means of supporting the family. But the concept is the same, that if a person thinks where he's going to go, so he's not going to want to run after the Tanugim El Hazeh, and if he can spend a few more hours learning or being Mavakar Cholim, visiting the sick, as opposed to making some money to buy his Mercedes, he'll do that. So the goal of this mission, the goal of the Jew, is not to defeat the Yetzer Hara, and I won. It was pushing me to run and not bench with Kavanah, and I benched with Kavanah. It was hard, but I did it. The point of Avodas Hashem is that, I'd rather bench. I see the value in benching more than getting to that meeting on time. So it's not to be in a state of conflict. That's the Schwer zu sein Yid, Dicke Yidden. It's to make it really Aseh Ritzoyin Cha Ritzoyin, to make Hashem's will my will. The point, if one thinks like this, that he's going to rewire himself to want to keep the Torah. It's not a challenge anymore. What a person believes in, it's not difficult. I use this example often with vegans, right? It's very restricted to be a vegan. Very restricted. You can't just go to someone's house for a meal. You can't just go out to eat, get a vegan restaurant. But you ask the Chevra who believe in it, it's not, they don't find it restrictive, they find it liberating. That's the ultimate, I think, muscle we could use for Yiddishkeit, for Shmiras Mitzvahs. Right? If the vegan is not into it, if it's very difficult for him, so it's not for him. So he's doing something wrong. He doesn't really, he doesn't stim with it. Right? It's not one with him. But if you really believe in something, no matter how restrictive it is, one could argue, the more restrictive, the more liberating. There could be a certain geschmack, and that I believe in this, and it works, and I feel so much healthier, and therefore, he looks forward to the restrictions. It could be.
Rabbi, observing Shabbos for the first time, if you're a Baal Shuvah and whatever you live life, whatever you lived, and all of a sudden you come back and you start observing Shabbos. Initially, it's a challenge. All the things that you used to do, you're not doing anymore, and it's like, But as time goes on, and you actually start looking forward to Shabbos, and it's really it flips.
Right.
It doesn't matter anymore. Whatever you thought before, this is what I'm missing. You realize it's nonsense.
Right.
Initially
it's difficult. Whenever there's a change, that initial change, that temporarily it's always difficult. Whenever a person learns a new thing, whatever it might be. Right. But eventually a person appreciates it to the extent that he can't live without it.
Right.
That's the goal we're supposed to do. We'll hold here, pick up Ezra next week in the same Mishnah. But that's the Chiddush. The Chiddush is that the point is not to win the battle. The point is there shouldn't be a battle. That's the idea.
And that's a gradual thing.